Record? Yes. You have done some homework.
Yeah.
Good. Please.
So,
Thank you.
okay. So.
Thank you.
Cheers. So,
Yes.
So we talked about our last question was the relation of China, how it has evolved towards its Africa's traditional partners.
Yes.
Then you
yes.
explained.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of trilateral cooperation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, my other question is, my third question is, what attitude does China carry towards those other nations trying to penetrate the African continent, like India, Turkey, Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think China's point of start and aim is to help Africa to develop itself, because in the Chinese policymakers' eyes, if Africa does not have peace or prosperity, there will not be peace and prosperity the world over. So Africa's fate is closely linked with every country. So that's why China is open. China could not be, the only partner of Africa. We hope that the more partners African countries have, the better that will serve African interests, I think, as well as for China's interests. Of course, more partners or more, countries have more interest in Africa would have a kind of competition among business people of countries. But competition is good. It's good for Africa. Competition on free market basis, competition on a kind of orderly way, are in the interests of everyone. So I don't think China is afraid of competition. But in addition to China, there are quite a few emerging powers, like Brazil, India, Turkey, and maybe Mexico, all those countries, I think, now, are paying more importance to their relationship with Africa. For instance, Turkey. Yes. Turkey has made a lot of progress. Last year I visited Somalia, last May. And Somalia is very dangerous. The security situation is so poor. A lot of Chinese business people, almost all of them left Somalia. But the Turkish business people are making progress. They are not afraid of that insecurity situation. They made a lot of contracts, building roads and projects there in Somalia. That impressed me so deeply. So I think that is good for Somalia. That is good for Somalia. It's Turkey, the business of Turkey. So I think our relationship, I think maybe China, the developed world, new emerging powers, competition is something not strange. It's something quite easy to understand. Do business together and try to avoid competition with the unlawful way. Laissez-faire should be kind of the way. Business, talking business, doing business, business attitude, market forces within the framework of law and regulation. For instance, some of the Chinese people have been, business people have been accused of, bribery. Africa or assisted corruption. In China we have a saying. In a big forest, you have all sorts of birds, kind of thing, and you could not completely rule out. Any country's individual business people to have wrongdoing, but believe me that is not the government. Policy. The Chinese way of doing business is, conducive for African countries to reduce corruption, for the Chinese ODA is project tied. It's not giving money to African leaders. It's giving project. So the money is linked with the process of the project and given to the implementers of the project. So even if the African leaders wish to be corrupted to have the money in their own pocket, but they could not see the money. That is one of the argument by Deborah Brodigan in his book.
Exactly.
The Gift of the Dragon.
Yeah, I said, and I saw it firsthand talking with a Nigerian businessman.
We should do business kind of inclusively. Yeah, more inclusive, equal basis. Try to avoid vicious kind of competition, but advocating for good competition, because competition will reduce the price of the project and Africa will benefit from it. Yes.
So my question number 4. So Chinese foreign relations principles, they date from the 1950s with the Bandung Conference, the Pacific coexistence.
Yes.
However, today's world has changed.
Yes.
And how will China be able to stick to these principles?
I think the principles what you mentioned is what we call the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. The basic tenets is peaceful coexistence, non-interference of each other's internal affairs, mutual respect, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, and mutual benefit, or things like that. These 5 principles of peaceful coexistence compromise, the foundation and the guiding line of the Chinese foreign policy. Up to now, I think there's no change, the basic principle. But China's foreign policy is, trying to keep abreast with the time and to be adaptable with the changing situation. For instance, one of the principles, that's what we call non-interference in internal affairs. And back 30 years ago, 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago back, the Chinese, were not enthusiastic in taking part in, peacekeeping efforts of the United Nations. We regard it as a kind of interference of internal affairs of our African country. But later on, that policy evolved. That policy has been, transformed and changed, and China has become, an active actor of peacekeeping, efforts of the United Nations. And 2 years ago in Mali, for the first time, the Chinese government sent, combatant armed, security forces. And last year we sent another group, a whole battalion of armed security forces to South Sudan. Originally we sent only engineering troops, medical teams, and not armed units, because for armed units they would be more risky. That is why in Mali and also in South Sudan, our soldiers sacrificed their lives. Some of the correspondents asked me question: do you think that the government will refrain from sending more troops? Will be less enthusiastic in taking part in African peacekeeping efforts? I said no. I believe that our government will continue, because sacrifice could not be completely avoided, and of course we will do everything try to reduce the tolls of the Chinese soldiers' lives, because I think that would, for instance, in my case, that in May 2007, for the first time, the government appointed me as a special representative of the government on Darfur, Sudan. And that is something also new, and that is an indication that the Chinese government adopts a more proactive, attitude in problems regarding with Africa, because you cannot regard all sorts of foreign involvement as kind of interference in internal affairs, because United Nations peacekeeping has clear-cut principles to follow. That is the hosting country consent, agree that to accept, and that's backed by the Security Council's resolution, and be cautious in in quoting Article number 7, you using forces to remain neutral, because since those principles will be followed, so China no longer regards it as kind of interference on internal affairs. So that's why, in peace and security area, that's one of the 10 major, tasks or areas of the Chinese-Africa cooperation. It reflects that, to be adapting with the changing situation. No longer stick to the what I call the rigid, policy of non-interference.
Okay. Now, following this, what are the consequences of Chinese policy towards? So there were wars in Libya, 2011, Mali, 2012, today South Sudan. So what are the consequences for Chinese policy towards Africa following these wars? What conclusion does the Chinese foreign policy have drawn from these events?
I think we have learned, lessons from the cases in Libya, particularly Libya, because China did not veto that UN resolution of imposing no-fly zone. Maybe China did not expect, the EU and NATO, sent, planes to bombard Libya and to directly involved with the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi, he is a quite, disputed, African leader. But judging from the consequences, from the outcomes, and we see clearly the fall of Muammar Gaddafi is not, the solution of Libya. Without Muammar Gaddafi, they have different factions, and no one is really in control. People there are suffering from losing of more lives, from poverty, from starvation. That was the situation got more worse, and also terrorist forces, extremist forces. After during the Libyan war, developed themselves, became stronger, and the spillover, was directly affecting the situation there in northern Mali. And the northern Mali situation is the spillover of them. So in northern Mali, France proposed to send, peacekeeping, troops from the UN in an urgent way. China, did not veto, or rather, we supported the idea. That is drawing the lesson from Libya, and another lesson is also from Mali. A kind of one place got a mass situation, and the negative effects will be spilling over to neighboring countries. I think China alone. So that is why in the cases of Syria, China and Russia, I think for 2 times vetoed resolutions which might directly brought down the government, because I think regime change by the forces from outside, those countries is not kind of a solution.
No.
It's not homegrown.
Exactly.
We are learning experience to become more cautious. We use the veto power. I think that was the lesson, my personal opinion, drawing from the Libyan cases.
Okay, and So we were talking previously in the office about the concept of win-win formula.
Yes.
Okay. Now, concretely, how does the win-win formula apply to China and Africa vis-a-vis an economic relationship?
Yes.
Concretely, how does it apply?
For instance, now Africa economic development is facing with three constraints.
Mm-hmm.
One is infrastructure, poor infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Another is lack of financial resources. Mm-hmm. The third is lacking of skills and technology. Mm-hmm. I think the Chinese government's policy are right to try to help African countries in these three areas. Now China performs a leading role in helping African countries in building more infrastructure, more roads, more bridges, more ports, more IT, industries. And that is something recognized by everyone, even by Western powers. And number two is that I know that the United States and particularly Western Europe, the EU, the economy are affected by the international financial crisis in 2008. They have their own problems. Greece, Italy, Spain, Portugal, many of the EU countries. They have constraints in financial abilities. That is why the Chinese government commits more financial impulse. If you follow closely the if you follow closely the commitment by the Chinese government in the past forecast, you could see that is increasing. For instance, during FOCAC summit last December in Johannesburg, the Chinese government committed $60 billion US dollars within 3 years, among which $5 billion is ODA, $35 billion is soft loan, yes, another two foundation, Africa Development, and also to set up a new foundation, a new fund for industrial capacity cooperation. And also, the Chinese government gives more scholarships to African countries. Now, every year is 20,000 to African countries, and a lot of trainings. Every year is more than 10,000, and they invite African countries for short trainings. You see that in Zhejiang University. You see, every year there are so many training courses.
Yes,
to help Africa, to develop its own skills, to have technology transfer. So these, are the win-win. That is not something a one-way ticket, and China will benefit in return. For instance, in the infrastructure area, and Chinese goods, Chinese machines, Chinese technology, even Chinese standards, yes, have come to Africa, taking roots. For instance, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and Djibouti, electrify, faster speed train using Chinese technology. The Gautier, Gautier technology, and also Mombasa, Nairobi railway, and in Angola, in Nigeria, we build a lot of, and China benefit in return. Yes, China benefit in return. It's not a kind of, kind of charity, kind of thing. And also by training African skills and transfer technology, that will help Africa development. Africa develops, the market is growing, and China is, we have more chances in the market. So that's what we mean by mutual benefit.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is there's you've got government agreements, then you've got the private Chinese companies.
Yes.
So what is the relationship between government agreements and those contracts signed with Chinese commercial companies. Does China support or favor private Chinese investments in Africa?
Yeah, it's a good question. That if you follow closely with the content of China-Africa Economic Cooperation, you would find that there are certain new development. One of the most important development is that the actors of economic relationship between China and Africa from the Chinese side have been switched from the government only, or government play a most important role, to enterprises, business. They are playing more important role. Not only parastatals, but more and more private business people they are playing. That is quite an important change. For instance, I think in late July this year, in Beijing, we convened a very important following up conference on implementation of the FOCAC summit resolutions last December in Johannesburg. Around 70 African ministers, came to Beijing to attend the conference. And since the conclusion of FOCAC summit last December up to July, more than 200 contracts were signed, and 50 billion US dollars were involved in the content. And in this, 91% are 91% are commercial loans and soft loans from China. You could see that is no longer foreign aid. That's commercial basis, yes, and the private business from the Chinese side. So the Chinese government, of course, supports our companies to go out, to go to Africa, to come into cooperation, and the Chinese banks, and also have financial facilities to support them, give them loans, mainly on commercial basis. But the 35 billion US dollar soft loan I just mentioned is that the government gives certain percentage of subsidy to the interest, because the commercial loans usually is 7% annual interest, but maybe the government gives something around 5% subsidy using government money, ODA, and the other 2%, be paid by African countries, 2% or something. We call it a soft loan. We call it a soft loan. Chinese government support them. But for private business people, we try to the policy is that they enjoy the same rights with the parastatals. But in reality, the parastatals may be much easier than the private business to get a government loan, because the size, it's big, and because they are relationship with the government more close. But the policy is that we encourage more private business to be, and they are going gradually to be the main actors. That's the one change. The actor, yes.
They'll become the main actors.
Yeah, main actors. Another change is that instead of just the contract labor, okay, we contract railroad, and when we finish it, and we give it back, and you manage it. But that experiences. But because the African countries' management skill is quite low, Tazara is an example. You put a lot of money, and when you complete it, and it's not well managed, nothing to be transported, and it's become a kind of economic burden. But now we change it. It's not only to build a rail, and we are actively involved in bidding for the management. The railway, Ethiopian Djibouti Railway, is a case. The company who built the railroad won the bid for the management, which will be lasting 5 years. During the 5-year period, the Chinese companies will train the local, driver, the local, technician. They will run school. They will try to, within 5 years, to make sure that 5 years later, when they leave, and the Ethiopian people could manage it perfectly well, and to bring into full, the benefits of the railway. This is one thing. Another is that Chinese government is helping Ethiopian government to open new industrial parks along the railway. You have a railway, and that will be facilitating, cut down the logistics of the goods from China, machines from China, and the Chinese businesses come to the new industrial park to invest, and you produce, and you use the railway to export. So not only build and leave, and what we call it the handover key project to manage, to transfer skill, and to develop as a kind of whole set kind of planning, develop industrial zone to make sure that the railway will make money. The hosting country will be benefiting. And this is another chance. The third chance is that originally we put stress on individual projects, or this project or that project. Now we are advocating for the synergy of the policy. Chinese policy be coincided or be closely linked, be synergied with the African countries' overall national development plan on country basis, and a continental plan on continental basis. For instance, the African Agenda 2063. So by doing this, and we could help the continent to develop better, or to have a kind of, we call it in Chinese 顶层设计. To have a design from the top, top design, not a kind of individual. To have Africa, to take Africa as a whole. Regional, continental policy, regional policy, and national policy, development plan strategy, try to be synchronized, synergy with the Chinese, so that from this area, much high level. So these three areas are the new change, something new.
Okay. Okay. Now this is a more specific question. What is the current situation of the China-Congo contracts that were signed in 2008?
To speak honestly, I'm not following the development that closely. And I have not talked, I don't have any further information. But I know that the projects are there, they are making progress, but it's not that smooth. Maybe they have some problems.
Politically?
I don't know, in political area or economic area. And the current, little volatile political situation. Maybe it's something that we have to pay much attention to. We hope that the transfer of power or the kind of third term, kind of thing could be properly solved. Because without peace and stability, there will be no development. So I don't have concrete information or new development. I honestly say that I'm not quite aware about that. Yes.
Other question I have is, you were talking about Ethiopia. How do you? I know that there's Eritrea and Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Now they both have contradictory interests.
Yes.
Now how does China position himself in a complicated situation like that one?
We on the one side is that we are cautiously make sure that we do not take sides to support this one against the other, or the other one against another. We adopt a kind of advising for peace kind of approach. We advise them sit down with cold-minded to try to solve their own problems, and at the same time we are trying to advise the African Union, get the regional power, regional organization to play more vital role. But unfortunately, they have already resorted to the United Nations Security Council. I think even during the UN Security Council made another resolution to postpone. Prolong the sanctions on Eritrea. China tried hard, to soothe down or mitigate the situation. We are not normally we are not in favor of to internationalize. Regional political cooperation. This is one aspect. And on the other hand, the disputes between the two, could not prevent China from developing normal kind of economic cooperation with both Ethiopia and Eritrea. We try to on country-to-country basis to develop good relations, economic cooperation. That is not the situation China wishes to see. China wishes to see, all African countries live in harmony. Yes.
Now, with regarding Zimbabwe, now China has a very close relationship with Zimbabwe. The RMB has been
yes, part of the.
It's an official currency.
Yeah.
What effect do you believe this will have on the Zimbabwean economy?
Logically, that would produce, positive effects. 好的 ，OK， positive effect. But